Driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with skyroof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewberry, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is Dewbs Co. Coming up tonight, Prime Minister Keir Starmer is giving a press conference today, pretty much all about Nigel Farage. You tell me, is that a smart move or a silly one? Also, Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick, he's been out and about catching fare dodgers, and he says we all need to do our bit to call out wrongdoing when we see it. Would you? And police have been cleared of wrongdoing for pepper spraying and tasering a one-legged pensioner in a wheelchair. Do you think that police go a bit too hard in the wrong direction sometimes? Well, I've got all of that and lots more. Look at my panel tonight to keep me company. I've got Kelvin Mackenzie, the former editor of The Sun, and Bill Rammell, the former Labour MP. But before we get stuck in, let's cross live and give you your 6 o'clock news headlines.
Michelle, thank you. The top stories. A 53-year-old man has been charged after a car was driven into a crowd at Liverpool FC's trophy parade. Paul Doyle, who's 53 from the West Derby area of Liverpool, has been charged with 7 offences, 6 charges related to grievous bodily harm and 1 count of dangerous driving. Thousands of fans were gathered in Liverpool city centre on Monday to celebrate the Premier League champions' title win when a car struck a crowd on Water Street. Police said a total of 79 people were injured, with the youngest aged 9 and the oldest being a 78-year-old. 7 people remain in hospital in a stable condition. Paul Doyle will appear in Liverpool Magistrates Court tomorrow morning. Nigel Farage cannot be trusted. That was the message of Sir Keir Starmer as he took on Reform UK's economic policy in a speech today. The Prime Minister accused the party of gambling with the nation's finances. It follows a speech made by Nigel Farage on Tuesday in which he accused Sir Keir Starmer of having no passion. In response to the speech, Mr Farage said, "In the last 24 hours, I've been attacked by Starmer, Badenoch, Swinney, Sarwar and just about everybody else except for the voters. We must be winning." The Prime Minister said Reform UK's policy is like having Liz Truss all over again.
And that's the question you have to ask about Nigel Farage. Can you trust him? Can you trust him with your future? Can you trust him with your jobs? Can you trust him with your mortgages, your pensions, your bills? And he gave the answer on Tuesday. A resounding no. He set out economic plans that contained billions upon billions of completely unfunded spending. Precisely the sort of irresponsible splurge that sent your mortgage costs, your bills and the cost of living through the roof.
An international trade court has blocked President Trump from imposing global tariffs on imports. The court accused the US president of overstepping his authority after utilising emergency powers to enforce the tariffs. The president claimed the matter was a national emergency and did not get approval from Congress. The UK government's reacted to the news today, saying these matters are for the United States to determine domestically. And sticking with the US, all of that comes as Elon Musk has announced he's leaving the Trump administration. While his role was always temporary, the ex-owner's departure from Doge comes just a day after he criticised Trump's budget bill. Elsewhere, the Health Secretary says striking doctors have lost public support as he warned any strike action could choke the NHS. This comes as resident doctors demanded a pay rise of almost 30%. Meanwhile, the British Medical Association's balloting 50,000 doctors to strike for a 6-month period, despite receiving the highest salary increase out of the public sector workers. The Health Secretary's written in the Times today to urge doctors to vote no in the ballot. And the government will set up a cyber command to counter what they call a continual and intensifying level of cyber warfare. In the Strategic Defence Review, more than £1 billion will be invested into a new digital targeting web to better connect weapons systems and allow battlefield decisions targeting enemy threats to be made and executed faster. Defence Secretary John Healey said the move was key to safeguarding the country.
Under daily attack, increasing attacks, and this is the nerve centre of the UK's military that helps us defend against these attacks. And the keyboard has become a weapon of war. And in future conflicts, and we learned this lesson from Ukraine, in future conflicts, those that prevail will be those who are not just better equipped and better trained, but better connected, and also capable of innovating ahead of adversaries.
And those are the latest headlines from me. For now, more news at 7 o'clock.
Thank you very much for that. My name's Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs Co, keeping you company until 7 o'clock tonight. Alongside me, I've got Kelvin McKenzie, the former editor of The Sun, and Bill Rammell, the former Labour MP. Good evening, gents. You're very welcome tonight, as are each and every single one of you at home. What, ladies and gents, is on your mind tonight? You can join the conversation, of course, in all the usual ways. Email me. I'm a little bit old-fashioned like that. And yesterday, you was all getting into the swing of it. You was telling me where you were from. I quite like that. So if you want to indulge me where you are, you're very welcome to do that as well. You can email gbviews@gbnews.com. You can go to the website, gbnews.com/yoursay, or, of course, you can tweet or you can X me. Now, our Prime Minister was very busy indeed today up in the northwest of England, giving quite a lengthy, I would say, press conference. I found it quite fascinating, though, because the main topic of conversation seemed to be Nigel Farage and Reform UK. Let's have a listen to some of it.
Now in government, we're once again fighting the same fantasy, this time from Farage. The same bet in the same casino, that you can spend tens of billions of pounds on tax cuts without a proper way of paying for it. Using your family finances, your mortgages, your bills as the gambling chip on his mad experiment. And I can see that in keeping with my point, apparently he's in Las Vegas today at a casino. And it's not a surprise, because he said that the Liz Truss budget, in his view, was the best since 1986.
I always, you couldn't see them if they were out of shot. I always feel a bit sorry for the workers that get rounded up and get put onto the side and made to stand behind these leaders when they do these speeches. My favourite one ever. If you're ever bored, wait until my show's finished though. If you're ever bored, look it up. There's a nurse in the background of one of them. Did you see it? Picking her nose relentlessly. And at one point, I kid you not, she was wiping it on her uniform. It was gross. Honestly, look at it and see what you think. But anyway, look, Zia Youssef, the chairman of Reform UK, he has been responding to some of the things that Keir Starmer said. Take a listen.
Ones who, in their manifesto last June said they were going to increase spending by £10 billion. In their first budget, 3 months later, they increased spending by £60 billion. According to the IFS, that delta alone would be enough to eliminate income tax below £20,000, which is one of our flagship policies. The reality is, when it comes to the Tories, for 14 years, and now Labour, there's seemingly infinite money for foreign citizens. You know, free accommodation in asylum hotels, endless boats coming across the channel, endless foreign aid. When it comes to British citizens, British pensioners, for example, there's no money left.
Now, Bill Rammell, if I was Nigel Farage, I would be so chuffed today because one of the points that was raised was that is Nigel Farage living rent-free in Keir Starmer's head? Labour have got 403 MPs. Nigel Farage has got 5. Why is Keir Starmer dedicating all this time to reform? Is this a smart move or a silly one?
Well, I mean, firstly, it's a legitimate critique. You know, Farage was throwing out spending commitments, you know, 80 billion to scrap income tax below £20,000 a year. It's a legitimate critique that it lacks credibility, it doesn't add up, and if it were implemented, he would either lead to a Liz Truss-style crash of the economy, or he wouldn't implement his policies. However, I do think it's premature. You can't keep up this critique for 4 years. And my analysis of where we're at politically and the votes in the local election is that a significant element of the reform vote was a protest vote. And there's actually polling to back that up. People were trying to send a message to the government. And by historic standards, it's not a high protest vote. You know, go back to 1981 and the SDP were at 51%. 2 years later, the government was re-elected with a landslide. I think what the government needs to do in response is to really concentrate on delivery, really significantly reducing net migration, which is starting to happen, the agenda for change, and bluntly, a much better communications effort than we've had since the general election.
You seriously don't think that Reform UK and its popularity is literally just down primarily to protests, surely?
A significant element of it, I think, is look at the polling that More in Common did the 2 days after the local elections, and a significant proportion of people who voted for reform in the local elections explicitly said they were trying to send a message to the government. Now, does that guarantee that it's recoverable? No, it's not. But I tell you what, there was another fascinating poll out this week by YouGov, which I regard as the gold standard amongst pollsters, and it did a series of heads-to-heads. Who do you want to be the next Prime Minister? And that's often the most telling indicator of how people will ultimately vote. And Keir Starmer beat Nigel Farage 44 to 29. Not only that, every opposition party leader beat Farage as well, even Kemi Badenoch.
Even Ed Davey.
But that was an anomaly, though, wasn't it? Because when you look at all the other polls, almost every poll now is putting reform ahead, often pretty much of everyone.
Well, it's putting them on about 30%, which, by historic standards, is not a general election winning position. Does that mean I'm complacent? No. The government needs to get on with much better delivery and much better communication. But, you know, what's being talked up at the moment, that Farage is on the brink of Downing Street, I think is light years from the truth.
Calvin McKenzie?
There is a protest vote. They were the Conservatives and the Tories were protesting at 14 years of a dreadful, simply dreadful run, and they have moved to reform. And my bet, unless Nigel Farage's health doesn't hold up, my bet is that Farage will hold on to 25-30% of this vote. So I think Starmer is right in one sense to have a go, because what he's doing is he's recognising the reality of it. The reform aren't going anywhere. They're our competitors. For whatever reason, the Tories have disappeared off the edge of the table. And he is wrong, actually, to use the economy to bash Nigel Farage over the head. Because if there's one thing where we're up something creek right now, it is our nation's economy, where our debts are off the scale. I mean, we are literally on the edge of bankruptcy right now. I mean, we owe literally trillions at the moment. We are paying 100 billion a year in literally interest rates to people we don't know. We haven't met them over breakfast. They are people who have lent us money. They can unlend us money. So if I were Starmer, I would try and find some other area to attack. to attack reform. And the truth about the matter is reform's strong suit, which actually Starmer hasn't dealt with, either because he wants these people to be his voters, right, is that to stop migration. If Starmer could stop migration, or Badenoch could, or Ed Davey could, they could find themselves in the same fantastic position that Nigel finds himself in today, which is an unbelievable. This is an unbelievable politician, the like of which we haven't seen anything like this, A, since Blair, or B, since Thatcher. This is a phenomenon, and my view is as long as the migrants carry on coming in their hundreds of thousands, we are not going to... You are never going to be able to kick Farage out of the headline, nor will you keep him out of number 10.
Well, hold on, Kelvin. You know, net migration has fallen by half since Labour's been in power.
It's still 400,000.
It's still 400,000, but the measures within the immigration white paper will drive it down to about 150,000.
Right.
Now,
Bill Rammell, you need to stop, because I'm not having this. Because I've heard loads of Labour people say this all the time. Net migration's fallen by about half since Labour have been in power. That is the most nonsensical thing, because surely you're not trying to take credit for the Labour Party bringing net migration down by half, surely.
The measures were brought in by Rishi Sunak at the very fag end of the government, and they were supported by the Labour Party with the visa restrictions, and that has led to a significant reduction. The further changes will drive it down further.
Power, Bill, for half of that period. They were not even there.
No, but...
So how are they responsible for that yearly drop by half of migration? I find this claim, because I see it's getting reported all the time by Labour, this claim that we are taking net migration in the right direction. It's so absurd that it makes people look at the people saying it and say, you're not a serious person, because you can't claim something that's not yours.
But, Michelle, we didn't oppose those measures at the very fag end of the Tory government, and I think had Labour been in power, they would have brought them in themselves. Because if you look at the immigration white paper, on top of that halving of net migration, there are a further significant number of changes that will drive the numbers down further. However, the big challenge, even though it's very small numbers, is the boats across the Channel. It's only 3% of net migration.
It is 50,000 this year,
Yeah, but it's very, very visible. And, you know...
You live in Harlow. If you had 50,000 people walking up Harlow High Street, I think the people would be angry.
Absolutely. Look, and I'm not dismissing it, Kelvin, but I'm saying it's... Even though it's a relatively small number, and it is within the net migration figures, visibly it's very powerful. And I think the government has and will make further progress on reducing net migration, but it's got to reduce the boat crossings.
But they're not reducing it, though. It's up.
Well,
it's gotten worse. So since Labour got elected, those small boat crossings have gotten worse.
Right, and a number of the measures that have been put in place, like the legal changes to actually give the legal capacity to prosecute someone for empowering a boat crossing, have literally, within the last couple of months, been brought in. I think the real test will come over the next year, 2 years, as the measures that have been put in place, do they actually reduce the numbers?
What do you think to it all at home? Crucially, though, I want to ask you, Nigel Farage has just put a tweet out about half an hour ago saying, Keir Starmer, why are you so obsessed with me? He's got this little montage where he's got all these clips, basically, of Keir Starmer, the Labour Party, referencing Nigel Farage. When you look at the Labour Party's Twitter feed, it is just relentless. It is tweet after tweet after tweet after tweet after tweet of Nigel Farage and Reform UK. What do you think to that? Is this sensible politicking, or is it a little bit odd? Let's continue the conversation after the break.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and he did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain's newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Cass Review, which was last March, April, a very accomplished paediatrician, Baroness Cass, who effectively said, we've got to stop giving children who think they might be trans, rushing them into treatment, avoiding them having pills that can change their body. And now it seems the NHS is still treating nursery-age children. Nursery age. These are toddlers who believe they're transgender. Now, they're not giving them any drugs, but the mere idea, why are mum and dad even going along with it?
It's things like a boy that wants to wear dresses and play with dolls.
Let him.
It's things like a girl who wants to kick a football or maybe have her hair short. And the problem is, I think the parents are the ones behind this, obviously. You either say, this is normal and children play around with gender roles as they have done since the beginning of time. You don't march them off to the doctor and get their heads looked at by a psychiatrist. And why are they doing it? Well, because they are reading that it's normal now, they're confused, they lack confidence as parents to say no.
Well, apparently, the health service had set a minimum age of 7 for children to be seen by specialist gender clinics. I think that's too young, frankly.
Unbelievable.
7, far too young. Claiming anything else less was just too young. But that limit's now been removed after the proposal was put up to consultation. And you know why? Because the wretched trans lobby have lobbied and put pressure on the NHS. So you've now got 3-year-olds being talked to about their gender. For God's sake, what are we doing to our children?
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Dewbs Co with me, Michelle Dewberry, Kelvin Mackenzie and Bill Rammell. I'm asking you all, do you think it was a sensible manoeuvre by Keir Starmer today to dedicate pretty much the whole of a press conference to Reform UK and Nigel Farage? I want to show you a montage of the press questions that were fired to Keir Starmer towards the end of that press conference. Take a listen.
I think one of the problems is that Nigel Farage can approximate talking like a human being, where you just resort to talking points and dodging questions.
The speed of the decline in your popularity is historically unprecedented. Isn't this speech today an admission that you have failed and Nigel Farage understands voters better than you?
Nigel Farage has 5 MPs, you've got 403. Are you panicking because Reform is so far ahead in the polls, it seems? Is he living rent-free in your brain? You went to a state school, your dad worked in a factory, your mum worked in the NHS. So why has a public school-educated former city trader got more in common with the Red Wall than you have?
Reform UK say you're running scared of them, that you're sounding increasingly like them with some of the policies and announcements you've made recently. This is a speech that was very defensive, wasn't it?
Are you not worried people will ask why you're holding a press conference about Nigel Farage 4 years out from a general election instead of focusing on your plans for the country?
You went into the election promising to freeze national insurance and keep the 2-child benefit cap. You've since raised national insurance on businesses and now you're considering axing the cap. Isn't attacking Nigel Farage's economic credibility a bit rich?
If I was Keir Starmer, I would have had a right sweat on during that. And I played that montage because that was a cross-section of Jen, as that first question, for example, was from The Guardian, just to give you some context on that. I just feel that it backfired today, Kelvin. And that last question there about why is Nigel Farage, a privately educated man from the city, whatever...
A point that Labour make, by the way.
Yeah, why is he connecting better with working-class people than Keir Starmer?
It's migration. It's migration.
Do you think it's that simple?
When he came on the scene and said, trust me, I'll smash the gangs, and here we have, our numbers will be 40% up year on year in the channel. That is a massive... That is where ordinary people can say, do you know what? The guy has no idea. He can't run anything. And then they say, we're not going to tax you. Oh, by the way, yes, we are going to tax you. He turns out to be, whether he's a, let's take Bill's charitable view, whether he's a liar or he's voted misrepresenter of the year, something is going wrong in the way that he is running the country, and I can see no hope whatsoever. I'm pleased to say that from this side of the debate, right? I can see no hope whatsoever for Starmer. I can see a little bit of hope for Ed Davey, and I can see a phenomenal amount of hope for Farage, who has turned out to be, as I keep on saying, an unbelievable politician.
I think, you know, as the government begins to deliver on tackling the boats, reducing net migration, delivering on the agenda for change, living standards, cutting NHS waiting lists, I think the situation can be different. And as
how can you cut NHS waiting lists, Bill? Let's be honest.
Well,
we can have the doctors out on strike in about a month's time, in which they're going to kill your mother for a pay rise, and they learned that from the rail drivers who were given 10% by your government.
Well, you know, NHS waiting lists have fallen 7 months in a row. Yeah, good. In part because this government is investing massively and significantly
by the way,
in the
they have
NHS.
actually risen for the first time now in 7 months.
For 7 months in a row, they reduced.
But but they've started. That's seems to be changing slightly at the moment, doesn't it?
I've not seen the figures that see that reversing, but it's been a significant trend in the right direction, but it needs to go further. But the other bit about this, and I said, you know, I questioned the timing of this and doing it now. The other thing in what I would describe as attack politics, you need to be comfortable at doing it. And I'm not sure Keir is comfortable at doing that kind of attack dog approach. And I'm taken back...
Where's it coming from then? Because when I have a spare moment, I don't have much of a life, I must confess, but when I get a spare moment, I like to sit down, maybe with a nice glass of wine, and I read the tweets from Labour and from Keir. And when you look at the recent tweets from Keir and Labour, and then you go back a period of time, the tone, the conversational tone, the style, it is so different. And you think to yourself, either Keir Starmer, you've had a monumental personality transplant, which evidently you haven't, or there's someone doing your Twitter, which probably there is. But the whole style and tone is completely different to the point where it feels totally inauthentic.
Well, I think the government has had a communications problem from day one.
You've always said that.
And I've always said that. You know, if I compare and contrast with the government that I served in after 1997, every day, every week, we were describing what the government was doing, how it was doing it, and why it was doing it. And that consistency of narrative has not been there. And I think that needs to get better and change. But my point about being an attack dog, I'm taking back to the 1992 general election, which was the first one I fought, where you, as editor of The Sun, Kelvin, monstered us on polling day.
Yeah, I did very well.
You did? I did very well. And... you know, the Tories were very, very successful at attack dog, but John Major didn't do it. Chris Patten, as party chairman, did it because he was more theatrical and more comfortable making those kind of attacks. I don't think Keir is effective at doing that.
Who would you have then if it wasn't the Prime Minister? Because we are into presidential politics now, aren't we? Yeah. Whoever's the Prime Minister of whatever country or the President of whatever country, they are everything. And my issue about him is that expression used inauthentic struck a chord, I must be honest. He is a lawyer, right? He doesn't believe anything. Actually, you pay me, I'll represent your views. And that is how I feel that people look upon him. That there's no passion, there is no belief, and actually, in the end, I think he'll be slung out with the same majority he was slung in on.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of legal professionals, they work on a cab rank rule and they do have to accept cases as they come along. So if he was here, we would say that that's not reflective of his own personality. Nigel...
Tony Blair was a lawyer and he was the most effective political communicator in my political lifetime.
I can hear you. I can hear the words Iraq being shouted as soon as he mentions Tony Blair. Don't worry, I can hear you. Let's just quickly listen before I end this segment. Then Nigel Farage, I said to you that he's put this tweet out asking Keir Starmer why he's so obsessed with him. Let's play it for you. Has it got any sound or not? Oh, there's no sound. Well, then you'll have to take my word for it then. It's basically him just counting up. I think the tally is 16 separate times why Keir Starmer is referencing Nigel Farage.
Isn't it fascinating that he's not mentioning, that he never mentions Kemi Badenoch? That nobody mentions Kemi Badenoch.
And that's the paradigm shift that we've had in British politics. The Tory party have lost their purpose. And, you know, apart from anything else, today's press conference does kind of say that reform is our opposition in the run-up to the general election.
It's very, very interesting times, isn't it? But I'll tell you someone that does get you talking. It might not be Kemi Badenoch, but Robert Jenrick, that's a name that's often on your lips. I'll show you what he's been up to after the break.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Some serious heat across parts of Spain towards the end of this week. We could top out over 40 degrees across parts of the south. A little cooler in Madeira, where it could be quite cloudy on Friday. Plenty of warm sunshine for Portugal and Spain, and generally pretty good in Italy as well. The heavy showers clearing away from the Balkans, but we are going to see more showers moving in across Greece through Friday and Saturday. That heat could trigger some thunderstorms in Spain and southern France into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening, I'm here with your GB News weather coming to you from the Met Office. Now the weather's looking pretty mixed as we go through the next 24 hours or so. Yes, there will be some rain around, but not everywhere. The driving force for the changeable weather is an area of low pressure. It's tracked across the north of the UK, now pushing away towards Scandinavia. But we do have a trailing front lingering across us. This is going to bring a bit more cloud, a bit more rain across parts of northern England, maybe southern Scotland and into Wales overnight. Also a swathe of wetter weather feeding into northern Scotland, some heavy bursts of rain likely there. Otherwise, some drier, perhaps even clear weather, but with some warm, humid air around. Temperatures not dropping much at all. It's going to be a pretty mild start today for many of us tomorrow. A mild start, yes, and also a bit of a wet one for some places across parts of central Scotland. A fair bit of rain first thing, although across the far north of mainland Scotland, quickly turning bright and sunny. Also a fair amount of cloud across southern parts of Scotland into Northern Ireland, some outbreaks of rain. East is best for the sunshine across northern England. Further west, a bit more cloud, some rain, and similar across parts of Wales, and maybe in parts of the southwest could see a few spots of rain. But the best chance of sunshine through tomorrow, that will be towards the southeast. Good deal of blue skies breaking through, and here with that warm, humid air, I'm expecting temperatures to rise, highs of around 24 or 25 Celsius here. Also some decent sunshine across the far north of Scotland, but in between there will be a few showery bursts around. A bit more cloud, some outbreaks of rain affecting parts of northern England and into Wales. Then as we go into the weekend, a bit of a northwest-southeast split. Some wet, blustery weather feeding in across many parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, perhaps into England and Wales towards the northwest, but further southeast, a greater chance of staying largely dry, often sunny and even warmer than tomorrow. We're looking at highs of around 25 or 26 Celsius before turning fresher by Sunday.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Dewbs Co with me, Michelle Dewberry. If you're just tuning in tonight, hello, good evening. You're very welcome. Alongside me, I've got Kelvin McKenzie, the former editor of The Sun, and Bill Rammell, the former Labour MP. A lot of people picking up on something Bill Rammell said earlier about Reform UK being a protest vote in some regards. I think you said it as well, actually. Lots of people are saying that that is an underestimation, and actually, if people think that, they will potentially be very shocked at the ballot box next time around. Lots of people thinking it is pretty peculiar that Keir Starmer is choosing to focus on Nigel Farage in the way that he currently is. I can't lie, there is a lot of love for reform. So many people are just saying that you're essentially disenfranchised with the current political system and that you really, really do regard Reform UK as an opportunity for change. Lots of you pointing out that now Reform UK have got control of things now, whether it's councils, a couple of mayors, whatever it is, and now people are rooting for them to deliver. Well, time shall tell, won't it? But coming up, another person that people do tend to speak about, we've just been asking why don't people reference Kemi Badenoch so much, but the Shadow Justice Secretary, Robert Jenrick, he seems to be becoming a little bit more strident these days, doesn't he? Look at this video that he put out.
Excuse me, do you think it's all right not to pay? Seriously, why do you go back through the barrier and pay? Do you want to go back and pay like everybody else? Do you think it's all right not to pay? Why don't you go back and pay? You can say off as much as you want, but everyone else has to pay. You're carrying a knife, you say? Nearly 1 in 25 people using London's public transport aren't paying for it. So there's 8 officers down there, but 1 minute away, that gate's wide open. It's also just annoying watching so many people break the law and get away with it. Or at least most of it. Right, should we go over here to these guys here? Excuse me, gents. Hello, hello. You're on camera, mate. You're bang to rights. Just step to the side and... All right, thanks very much, guys. It's the same with bike theft, phone theft, tool theft, shoplifting, drugs in town centres, weird Turkish barber shops. It's all chipping away at society. The state needs to reassert itself and go after lawbreakers.
I quite liked that, I've got to say. It did also, though, make me chuckle a little bit because then someone pointed out they apparently went to TfL. A lot of that was filmed in the Tube in London, which, of course, is run by TfL. They went to TfL and asked, has Robert Jenrick had permission, basically, to try and film that? So the irony of that was that apparently he didn't have permission to film on TfL
because he wouldn't have been given it. He wouldn't have been given it to do that particular film, would he?
Well,
That's the thing that's wrong with TfL. And anybody who travels on the Tube regularly, as I do, I suspect you guys do as well, honestly, sees it all day long. Yesterday, I was at Leicester Square Tube. I saw literally some kind of hobo with a dog, right, just burst through those gates, burst through it themselves. Nobody said a word. Nobody said a word. Now, the reason they don't say a word is because, not unreasonably, they fear that they're going to get a right-hander or they're going to get a knife in them or something's going to happen or they don't consider it part of their jobs. Well, whose job is it? Why doesn't Mayor Khan actually say something? I haven't seen a big statement from Mayor Khan tonight. That was compelling political television in a way that Starmer's was a complete waste of space.
It was also an inauthentic stunt because my experience travelling on public transport is that people are stopped. So, you know, I come in from Harlow every week.
You've seen people jump. I've seen people jump them. I've seen people. They go through like that.
3 times in the last year, I've got to Harlow Town Station, gone down the stairs, and there've been 10 security staff and police checking people. That's happened 3 times in a year. The idea that people are not challenged is simply
not the challenged, Bill. honestly, I'm pleased to hear that in Harlow it's OK. You go around London, big London central tube stations, nothing happens. Any kind of anybody. For instance, everybody seems to be able to wiggle. It's very clever. You go behind somebody, and when they go through, you wiggle through with them. That happens all over the place. So I thought that was compelling political television and actually will have done Jenrick a lot of good. And I want to hear what Khan's response to it is. Are we going to have more security, or is it not possible to make the underground system secure? That could be it. Well, the cost may be enormous.
If it's like the railway, then there is security. But the other reason I think it's inauthentic for Jenrick is he was a member. He talks about the various offences that he says aren't being dealt with, one of which was shoplifting. He was a member of the government that decriminalised shoplifting below the value of £200.
That is true.
And, you know, people in glass houses really shouldn't throw stones.
It is absolutely true. But at the same time, he has turned, right, maybe in his interest. But we do want people... This is why people like Farage seem to have an umbilical cord to a decent percentage of the population who felt unserved, whether it's by Labour or by Tory or by Lib Dem. They want something else. And so that will have done him a lot of good. Now, the other issue is, I pointed out that, in fact, where was Kemi? Why didn't she make that film? for instance, and then a whole load of Tories have climbed in and said, well, actually, she was doing this, she was doing that. The trouble for Kemi is she can't make the weather. She hasn't got natural kind of what I would describe as populist, you might describe as tabloid instincts, right? Like that Jenrick was very clever. Other politicians, if on the Labour side and/or on the Reform side, should make similar.
And yet she's flatlining. So there was a poll earlier this week on GB News within the Red Wall, and Kemi Badenoch was in 4th place, behind even Jeremy Corbyn as a potential Prime Minister. Jenrick was about 2/3 behind her as well. So I don't think he's cutting through.
Well, yeah, I think the point about being Prime Minister, I've seen all these polls. Actually, the funny thing is they carried out the polls about 2 weeks after they... Actually, we had a proper poll in which Reform did spectacularly, Labour did dreadfully, Tories did dreadfully. I agree, we have years of this to go. Look, if Nigel Farage's health holds up, because he does run at things, he is a diligent politician, if his health holds up, he will come very, very, very close to number 10.
Right, look, Kelvin, I'm not complacent, right, in the Labour Party's interest, in the country's interest, but to describe the Reform performance in the local elections as spectacular is a million miles away from the truth. By historic standards, it was a protest vote and not a very high protest vote.
Right, so next May, we've got Wales. I could see, unbelievably, after 100 years of turning Wales into a shocking industrial wasteland, Labour actually end up in 3rd place, and they could be behind Reform, right? Scotland, no, but there are 10 southern county councils vote, right? I guarantee the Tories will be wiped out in those county councils.
Well, that may be the case.
Including, by the way, Surrey, my hometown.
But that may be the case. But one of the things that's going to start to change is that because Reform now do hold political office with the mayoralties and running county councils, they're going to have to start delivering and they're going to be scrutinised. And I was really struck, what was it, Andrea Jenkin, when she took over as the mayor for, is it Greater Lincolnshire? And she said, we're going to scrap all the diversity and equality officers. And there were none within that borough. How else is she going to make progress with the real challenges like social care?
Hold on a second, because some of these councils, they're quite crafty. So what they've got into now is they don't clearly label DEI stuff as DEI. They use clever different descriptions and all the rest of it to embed a lot of these functions within the bodies of the council. So it's not that they are perhaps not there, it's that they've been embedded perhaps somewhat differently.
But look, Michelle, it is preposterous to claim that you can deliver the level of resources that are needed for public services, and in every area of the public realm, people are crying out for more resources by just scrapping a few diversity and equality officers. You know,
that's disingenuous, Bill Rammell, because that's not what they've said. They haven't said we're going to take down the personal allowance to £20,000, etc., and the way we're going to fund it is kick a few DEI people out. That's not what they've said.
They've said that they will scrap. They've said they will scrap net zero, delivering £350 billion. That's the cost over 25 years, and half of that is private sector investment. So if you're committing to £20,000 no tax, that's £80 billion. Scrapping net zero would give you about £2 billion.
Well, the estimate was between about 50 and 80. And what they were saying is DEI, they were talking about net zero, they were talking about getting a handle on asylum costs and all the rest of it. But they would admit...
None of that adds up to anything close to 50 billion.
But they would admit, Bill Rammell, that what they're saying right now, we're setting out our stall, this is the direction of travel, this is what we want to achieve. We've got 4 years, pretty much, to get our ducks in a row, sort everything out. And I think the British public are trusting of that. I do believe that they are sitting there trusting. We speak every day, and I hear you. I've got to just add some other bits and pieces just to this Robert Jenrick thing, because I thought it was brilliant. I thought that video was absolutely brilliant, what he did, but it did make me laugh, the bit about the filming at the end. Just to put some context on this fare dodging, TfL Transport for London, they say basically evasion costs the organisation more than £100 million a year. So obviously it is still a big issue. A chap that comes on this show often, I quite like him, Matt Talbot, he responded on Twitter actually to Robert Jenrick's view. He said, based on the recent data, Robert Jenrick's constituency has a higher crime rate it. Then London. So why isn't he doing this in his own constituency as opposed to focusing on London? I also thought that was a very good point. Kemi Badenoch, a lot of you perhaps might have voted for her in that leadership election. Does she still have your backing or not? I wonder your thoughts on that one. Look, we've got a lot that we need to carry on talking about tonight. Did you see this? I found it fascinating. I'll show you the clip afterwards. Officers, they pepper sprayed and tasered a one-legged pensioner that was sat in a wheelchair. Very odd. They were found not guilty of wrongdoing. Let's look at that after the break.
Nigel is back.
Good evening.
Unfiltered.
Are these proposals bold enough?
Uncompromising.
Will it bring growth?
Unmissable.
We as a country are brilliant.
Nigel Farage returns this Tuesday from 7 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewberry, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, everybody. Michelle Dewberry, Bill Rammell, Kelvin McKenzie with you till 7 o'clock. One of my viewers, Ian, says, Michelle, before you move on, can you just quickly ask Bill, does he still think Reform UK are far right?
I think on a classical political definition, yes, they are a far-right party.
Absolutely.
And I tell you this about Farage.
Do you know how
For
daft
every
that
one
sounds?
voter he attracts, he repels two others. And in terms of...
sounds like Labour.
Well, hold on. In terms of where we are
Sounds like the
politically at the moment,
Labour election.
if I'm absolutely candid, at the moment, I think we're heading for a hung parliament at the next general election.
Absolutely
But
not.
if the government starts to deliver, I think that can change.
So by definition, if you think that they are, by definition, your definition, a far-right party, do you think that people that vote for them then are far-right?
No, because I've said that I think a significant element of it was a protest vote, and that's actually backed up by polling evidence.
You see, I think that's so delusional. I really, really do. We can't get back into that kind of worm, so we've covered this at length at the top of the programme. If you just missed it, we've covered Nigel Farage and Keir Starmer. That's bizarre press conference, if you ask me. You can go back and watch it on catch-up. Now, look, I want to talk to you about this. I do need to warn you, distressing content will be coming up, but I thought it was important just to play you this clip so you know what I'm talking about. It's the police responding to a 92-year-old pensioner with one leg in a wheelchair. Watch this.
Don't be silly. We can solve this without having to resort to this. Yep, put the knife down. Just throw it on the floor. Just pop it down for me, on the floor. Pop it on the floor. Donalds, pop it on the floor. As many as we need. Put the knife on the floor now, or you'll be sprayed. Do as you're told. Put it down. Put it down. Donald, put it down. Seriously? Last chance. Can you just hold that door? I can't get a good angle. Donald, put it down. Put it down now. Come on. Last chance. Right. Put it down. Drop the knife. Drop the knife. Put it on the floor. Do it now. Drop the knife. Donald, drop the knife. Donald. Put it down. Put it down. Taser, taser.
I mean, what do you even say to that? I've got to say, these officers, they have been cleared of assault. So there's essentially found not to have used excessive force on that pensioner. But I mean, you know, he's a fella, 92 years old, that was in a care home. One leg in a wheelchair. He was asked that, the clip, it went on for quite some time. It was repeatedly asked, put your knife down, put your knife down, put your knife down, and he wouldn't. But sometimes when I look at that, I just wonder if we're a little bit heavy-handed in the wrong direction, the wrong places in society sometimes. Easy targets. What do you think?
I tell you what I'd like to see. I'd like to see a whole load of care home nurses, matrons and very organisers come and explain that that is not an unusual thing that happens in care homes. There are older people who are quite delusional. They suffer from dementia, Alzheimer's, God knows what else. They attack the nurses, and in this particular case, he had a knife. He was given the choice, right? He chose not to accept the choice. I tell you what I thought was disgusting, where I completely disagree with you, is those officers should never, ever, ever have been charged. That is their job. Their job is to stop people with knives actually threatening, and when they were given the option, the guy did not accept it, and that was the lot of it. And anyway, the jury agreed with me. The whole thing was cleared in a matter of half an hour or something.
And that's where I think you do have to trust the judge and the jury system. It's very easy to take cases like this out of context. Look at footage like that. We haven't had all the detail that the jury will have had to exonerate the police. And, you know, the guy did have, as I understand it, he was brandishing a knife, had been for 30 minutes threatening the staff. Yeah. Tragically, he had a urinary tract infection. Yeah. And I remember my dad, towards the end of his life, constantly had them, and they send you over the top.
Shocking, yeah.
But it was a threatening situation, and I think it was probably the right verdict.
So why are these police officers in court at all?
Well, I think it's worse than that, Kelvin, because they're now going to be subject to a disciplinary process for gross misconduct. And I think there was a problem with trying police officers twice, as is effectively happened here. If you've been exonerated through the legal system, I don't see why you're going through a disciplinary process.
And if you take Sir Mark Rowley, you know, correctly pointing out that the number of police officers in London is on the down and yet the population is on the up, right? One of the reasons is that there are too many officers quitting early. Right, it's a bit like, funnily enough, it's a bit like teaching is going on right now. We have got to, give them more money, we've got to believe in them more, and we can't have this double jeopardy all the time.
You see, I am a defender of frontline police officers. We speak about these kind of things often. I don't envy you guys. I think you're really brave. You go running to danger. You don't know what's going to be at the end of your call-outs and all the rest of it. And I feel sorry for you because I think you often get thrown to the wolves by ridiculous decisions that come from management that put you in the way of undeserved criticism. But I just can't help, and I am tough on law and order, I am, and I don't know if I'm going soft in my old age, but just something about that footage, I just think to myself, as trained professionals, surely you could disarm a one-legged pensioner in a wheelchair in a different way rather than using tasers, because then on the other hand, you have a situation where we've got very high secure people in prisons, high secure prisons, dangerous people in prisons. We don't even give our prison officers what they call stab vests as standard issue. Yeah. So I just think there seems to be this huge kind of discrepancy in we seem to mollycoddle really dangerous people, and then the easy, low-hanging fruit, we seem to overly police them.
Well, he wasn't low-hanging fruit. No. He had been threatening that staff, as Bill pointed out, for half an hour before they finally said, we can't take any more of this. He won't put this knife down. We'll call the cops. The cops turn up. They say, put it down, put it down, put it down. Bang. Right, it was 100% correct.
Could you have not disarmed him? I mean, it's not... Where's he going to go to? I mean, I'm not a trained police officer, but I would imagine that there are ways of trying to disarm someone who's not massively mobile in themselves. I'm not being rude or anything, but he's in a wheelchair with one leg. I mean, where's he going to go?
But Michelle, the jury will have seen the whole extended evidence of what happened, why it happened, and why, in the officer's view, that was the best alternative to tackle a potentially very dangerous situation. And I think sometimes you've got to trust the legal system and the jury to deliver the right outcome.
Well, there you go. And I've got to say, both police officers involved, they basically say they weren't aware of the vulnerabilities that chap had. They didn't really think that they were doing anything wrong. They still stand by that. They were just trying, they say, to get the knife out of his hand. I've got to say, my family are nurses as well, and they often look after medical elderly. Yeah. And they often get assaulted.
Was Bill a patient?
No. If you was in Hull, you might be a patient, but my family have swerved the pleasure of needing to look after you.
Have I just been called elderly by Kelvin McKenzie?
Well, if he's just called you elderly, I would say that is a mild insult, because you should hear, ladies and gents, some of the things that Kelvin McKenzie actually does say when we are on breaks and all the rest of it. Look, John says, Michelle, surely the police could have spoken to him, they could have acted differently and got that knife off him. Other people, though, they agree with you too, and they think absolutely, if someone's got a knife and you're told to put it down and you don't, well, you kind of reap the consequences. Yeah. I think it's a very sad story. This chap, I do have to say, he has passed away, not related to this, but it has, that really has.
Won't have done him much good, though, will it?
Glynis says, that was really upsetting to watch. It showed such a lack of skills and care. But then perhaps if you were in that situation, as these chaps are pointing out, Glynis, and someone won't put their knife down, perhaps what will you do? There's a lot of love for Robert Jenrick coming through the door, I can tell you. Not a lot of love for fare dodgers. Stop putting up our prices, say many of my viewers. But that's all I've got time for. Thanks, chaps. Thanks to you at home. Have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening, I'm here with your GB News weather coming to you from the Met Office. Now the weather's looking pretty mixed as we go through the next 24 hours or so. Yes, there will be some rain around, but not everywhere. The driving force for the changeable weather is an area of low pressure. It's tracked across the north of the UK, now pushing away towards Scandinavia. But we do have a trailing front lingering across us. This is going to bring a bit more cloud, a bit more rain across parts of northern England, maybe southern Scotland and into Wales overnight. Also a swathe of wetter weather feeding into northern Scotland, some heavy bursts of rain likely there. Otherwise, some drier, perhaps even clear weather, but with some warm, humid air around. Temperatures not dropping much at all. It's going to be a pretty mild start today for many of us tomorrow. A mild start, yes, and also a bit of a wet one for some places across parts of central Scotland. A fair bit of rain first thing, although across the far north of mainland Scotland, quickly turning bright and sunny. Also a fair amount of cloud across southern parts of Scotland into Northern Ireland, some outbreaks of rain. East is best for the sunshine across northern England. Further west, a bit more cloud, some rain, and similar across parts of Wales, and maybe in parts of the southwest could see a few spots of rain. But the best chance of sunshine through tomorrow, that will be towards the southeast. Good deal of blue skies breaking through, and here with that warm, humid air, I'm expecting temperatures to rise, highs of around 24 or 25 Celsius here. Also some decent sunshine across the far north of Scotland, but in between there will be a few showery bursts around, a bit more cloud, some outbreaks of rain affecting parts of northern England and into Wales. Then as we go into the weekend, a bit of a northwest-southeast split. Some wet, blustery weather feeding in across many parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, perhaps into England and Wales towards the northwest. But further southeast, a greater chance of staying largely dry, often sunny and even warmer than tomorrow. We're looking at highs of around 25 or 26 Celsius before turning fresher by Sunday.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Someone is going to win the biggest prize package to date, and that someone could be you, driving away in this Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It has plenty of room for your family of 4, comes complete with kitchen, bathroom and all the space you'll need for life on the road. Plus, we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS